There's a lot of big names in the first page of results, but we have to talk about the fact that Fredoxy just had the biggest comeback yesterday.
Absolutely. There's always going to be big names on the EU Day 1 leaderboard, man. We have so much talent in this region and so much
Fredoxy apparently came back yesterday. I'm sorry I wasn't watching that one.
In particular, they really put on a show for us towards the back end of the day yesterday, man.
Yeah, it took a little bit of getting going for them. They didn't quite figure out the whole lobby. I think the way that they play, they like to play aggressive.
Surge from, and that seemed to be working out very well for them. It was that one game, wasn't it, that 21 elim record-breaking, record-equaling game as well, that really set them up for success.
And there's a serious determination on the side of this team because they came second in Major 2. They then had a disappointing showing in Group 1, so they had something to prove yesterday, Levin.
Absolutely. I mean, look, there's been question marks about whether or not this team was going to continue their form from last season, right? When a team sort of pops out of nowhere almost and has a grand final performance like they did, their typical expectation is they will revert back to type the next season, move back, especially when you have players who've been around for a long time. It's not like these guys are all just really new players, right? The newest one, I guess you'd say, is Chino, but Pablo and Fred have been kicking it in EU at a high level for quite some while now, some years now. And to see them now sort of reach their peaks almost, right? Reach a prime where they're just performing at the highest level, all of them feeling it, you know, it's so fun to watch right now, Minnie.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, each of them have had their glimpses, their moments. I know it was sort of late Chapter 4, I believe it was, when Pablo was sort of one of the favourites to win an FNCS, and back then that was his sort of breakout year. Then didn't really have as great of a time, but now it's lovely to see this sort of resurgence, and the way that these guys are playing, Levin, is so good. Their aggressiveness is amazing.
Yeah, like these guys truly are playing in a way I think a lot of teams can't match. When you're looking at how they're actually getting a lot of their surge and sort of the mid-game, the way they're taking fights, 21% of their damage in zones 1 to 5 is with their shotguns being dealt. Let me tell you something right now. In the top 10, there is not a single team anywhere near 21%. The best you'll get is like CZB and Axe Force's trio, who I think do 13% of their damages with shotguns, right? Every other team in the top 10 is literally doing like very minimal. I say very minimal, Mini. Literally like 5 of teams have done 0% of their damage with shotguns in mid-game. So it shows you these guys are aggressive. They take fights. They have the most limbs in the lobby, the second most damage. They are ready to get in your face with their shotguns and put you to work.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the play-ins when all 3 of them led the damage stats for that entire play-ins, and that's so rare to see. Every single member of a trio pulling their own weight, and you can see it in those stats right there. They're so aggressive, they're so dominant in those fights, and I think in this sort of meta where teams are sort of basing up and trying to go for damage that way, being that sort of thorn in the side for those teams when they don't know you're coming, that could be so beneficial to have right now.
And it could be that it's a short walk from Supernova Academy to Lone Wolf Lair, but it also seems like Fredoxy and Co keep their eye on the leaderboard because they were in second position going into Game 6 yesterday, so they decided to pay their closest rivals a visit, Mini Miner.
Yeah, this was a really nice play, and this is exactly what I was just talking about. They have this in their locker, their ability to sneak up on teams, and of course this was onto their main rival yesterday in game number 6 in Seti's team, who got snuck up on by Fredoxy and taken out, which allowed Fredoxy's team to actually go ahead and take first place. After a really solid performance from Seti all day, Levin, it was not a bad performance from them at all. I think an overachieving performance from what a lot of people expected.
I'd agree. I'd have to agree. I think the key thing is, again, Fredoxy's trio optimizing, playing to their strengths. I'm always going to back teams who do that.
I want to back Seti's team right now, though, because if we think back to the group stage, we had some questions about this new trio and whether it was going to work, whether Seti's best days were behind him. But yesterday, they looked like the most consistent team straight out the gate, 11.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at how these guys are playing, like Minnie said, I think it was a surprise to many people. When you look at the names on paper, it's some performance you could have expected, right? You look at the trajectories of all 3 of these players. Yes, Seti's coming off of maybe a year and a half where people were doubting his ability, doubting whether his best days are behind him. But in the case of Panzer and Yapko, things haven't been better for these guys in some time, right? These guys are playing in their prime form, peak form, and we really saw that in the survey yesterday, Minnie.
Yeah, we did. They came out swinging. They played really, really well in those sort of end games as well, being able to turn games on their head when they did get into a spot of bother. And I think what was really impressive about the way that they played was that no matter what position they found themselves in, although they did get a little bit fortunate with some zones, they were able just to get themselves out of there, which is absolutely great from these guys. I think also something that I'm a little bit sort of concerned about, I guess, or looking at today is that Game 6. We just saw it. We saw what happened with Fredoxy. We've sort of seen their weakness now. We didn't see it throughout the entire day. 5 games of pretty much perfect Fortnite got them into first place. Now we've seen where there could be some gaps in their strategy, so maybe some other teams might be looking to exploit that. Hopefully they've got plans to stop it.
Oh, I'm wondering now, are we going to see another Vino does Teeny on Lone Wolf Flare? We'll have to wait till Game 7 to see. Let's head over to our casters, though, Taco and Takata, to catch up with their thoughts on day 1.
The lights are very bright right now, Frankie, and I just cannot wait to see who's going to end up rising to the occasion, because there are so many opportunities, I think, here in day 2. 2-day formats, more games, more chances for players to try and overtake. And when I look at a team, I have to be direct. Pick Storm Demas. Spotlight on you guys right now. These guys are uncontested here today, for right now, at least what the drop map is telling us, Takata. And they're coached by Sven, who I think you might want to fill in the audience what's going on right now with Sven's teams.
Yeah, well, there was a record that was actually broken, and it was by a trio that Sven is coaching on Asia, Coyote, Rise, and Yuma. They got 8 victory royales in the grand finals of Asia FNCS, alongside, I think, 6 of them in a row, and maybe even 7 in a row, breaking back-to-back records. Also, shout out to Alex on OCE alongside Resigns and Anon. They had just broken the record as well on OCE, and 1 hour later, it got broken again on Asia. But yes, it was by a trio that Sven is coaching, and Sven is coaching here, like you mentioned, another trio which is currently in 11th place, picks Darm and Demas. So hopefully they can get a strong comeback today, Tom.
Yeah, we could look at a runaway narrative, or we could possibly see some real comeback opportunities, but at least we've got Frankie, Minnie, and Levin to let us know more.
Thank you so much. And speaking of comeback, why don't we take a look at the leaderboard again, but skip on to page 2, because there are some trios that have not booked their spot in Leon yet who really do need a comeback. If we talk about Cammy, Chari, and iDrop, they're currently in 12th, which is surprising, Levin, when you consider they got the first victory royale of day 1.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it is, but or maybe it isn't. Minnie, I want to know your thoughts on this, because obviously when you looked at the map and people saw contest and they were like, hold on a minute, this could be a tough day for Cam. We know how him and Hari have dealt with being contested in the past. But ultimately, they started really well, and I think what's clear to me is that these guys understand how to play this season. They understand the meta. You see them here on your screens. Playing in the storm is something that we associate with Cammy now over the years, something we know he's very comfortable doing. We saw them with some really nice ideas in terms of camping and catching people out who were surge basing. And so, again, it feels like they have a good pulse on the meta and how they need to play. It just comes down to the execution, Minnie.
Yeah, they had an explosive start, didn't they, with that first game win. Massive 13 eliminations in that as well. And I think, yeah, you're right. They have got a really good read on the meta. My main question for this team going into the weekend was, how are they going to survive off spawn? What's going to happen there? As you mentioned, Cammy hasn't had the best time. They've been really, really solid there. They haven't had any trouble off spawn. They've actually been making it to these end games really consistently. It is just those final couple of a few eliminations, finding that little bit of a refresh, those later game surge damage as well for this trio, which is important. So I think that's where they're struggling right now, where they didn't have that problem in game number 1. So expecting big things from these guys. We've seen it already. Can they do it again?
I have to say that last weekend, watching Akira, Kurama, and Warwick, we'll see them on the leaderboard in a moment. They're in 14th position at the moment. Watching them last weekend, I was so surprised and pleased by how well they played. And so, Minimine, I'm confused as to why they're not able to bring this to this lobby. Is it just such a strong lobby they can't compete?
I mean, it's tough for them, right?
The amount of times, like, everyone's got either an issue or like a problem, like either a problem in game or out of the game. So like some people might have a problem with end game, but some people might have a different problem with that. But in my opinion, it's just Peterbot. He might be the best. He needs to focus on one team. He can be better if he does. That's my opinion. Thank you.
We talk about on this side of the leaderboard, board now. So let's look at the zones, right? Let's take a look at the zones because I think there is something there. We see players blame zones all the time, right? But I think there is something we need to highlight in that. Look, we have all these zones pulling towards the sort of southwest, like you mentioned, Minnie, and what ends up happening, especially this season with this meta, we understand how teams are playing for Surge. We understand how a lot of these mid games are playing out. I mentioned it earlier, I'll mention it again. When you look at the top 10, there's about 4 teams who literally did 0% of their damage with shotguns in the mid game, right? Teams are in bases, they are looking for these long distance tags. If you are a team who is nowhere near where the zone is pulling towards, you have less time to sit up in a base and get tags. Maybe you do have the time to get up in a base and have tags, but some of the other teams around you don't quite have the loot, don't feel confident, so they're not even thinking about that, they're trying to run to zone. It makes your game a lot more difficult, and I think we're seeing that problem for Akira's trio. Obviously, they're landing way up there in the northwest. I think it's the same for a team nearby them in Pink's trio, right? We obviously, had big hopes for Pink's trio today. We thought that they could be a team that calls for globals, and I still think they can be, but they were a team, I think, especially who struggled with zones today, being the team that lands the furthest northwest on the map. And so, again, they were able to make it to a fair amount of end games, right? You're seeing them having to fight here in the storm because, again, they can't play how they want. The zone is going so far, they need to get the damage here and now. But
I don't get how locked in they are. I just don't understand.
Well enough to get 2 end games, but if you just played the whole game playing on your back foot stretched, you're going to get to these end games and it just becomes so difficult to actually make plays to keep you pushing in it.
Yeah, you're just late at the end of the day, right? Everyone else is rotated in, they're all set up, they're all got good loot, and then teams like Pink, Nebs and Kiro, they've been fighting in the storm, they haven't been able to find that success, and I think that was a key reason why I think their best placement yesterday was 10th in one of the games, so definitely not something that we'd associate with the level of this trio. I think for them, if they can get a few more of these zones now today, that'd be really good for them, but it's all about how they can manage those longer pulls now. Hopefully they've learned some strats.
So we talked about zones, but is that something that's impacting Savage's trio? Because we started to see them have a resurgence towards the end of the day yesterday, mini minor, but they don't have a time for a slow start today.
Yeah, again, it's one of those teams that have shown glimpses. They had a nice second place. We saw some clutches from Mr. Savage. We saw some moments where they have shined in endgame, but very similar to the previous 2 trios. The zones haven't been in their favor. I saw Reason posting on socials that I think this is 2 seasons in a row now where they land on one side of the map and the zones are on the complete other side on day 1. So they have been unfortunate in that regard. But when it comes to the way that these guys play, I think they can qualify for globals still, Levin. And I don't think it's all about zones for them. I think they can avoid some of the problems that they had yesterday, but of course the zones aren't going to help.
Yeah, it's not, right? When you look at the percentage numbers I was talking about in terms of percentage of damage dealt with shotguns in mid-game, these guys were actually on the higher end of the top half of the leaderboard. I think about 14% of their mid-game damage was done with shotguns, and I felt like that was out of necessity for them. It's because, they didn't have teams to take long-distance tags out. They had to get in people's faces and
Wednesday, good. They've removed the timer now, how funny. Leon is where they're fucking main playing, whatever it's called. Where the land's playing. Leon is where they're fucking main playing, whatever it's called. Where the land's playing. That's better. Here we go. Let's get into this then, chat.
For the global championship, but
Whew.
Teams have had every opportunity to do all of their revisions last night. And now we get a chance to see whether or not some of those adaptations are going to play into whatever the outcome is.
We have started.
Who did their homework? Who put in the work behind the scenes? Time will tell as we kick things off.
Don't know how long it's gonna be, like half an hour till this game ends.
Qualified for the global championship is Seti Yapko Panzer in second.
Put that.
But one of the main topics of day one was obviously Demon's Domain, Queasy, Swizzy, Merstash up against Malabuka's trio, but looks like they're not going to be contesting them this time around.
No, Queasy, Merstash, and Swizzy have got to hit the drawing board for what their search strategy is going to look like outside of having that initial Ospawn
I'm
contest.
gonna be like Malabuka one.
Very immediate problem for so many of our teams, especially by
Here we go, getting landed
the
on.
first moving. And so
He's gonna
here
get
today,
screwed.
the teams that are kind of pushed into these like outskirt positions on the map, I think that they've got to be on red alert for getting third partied.
100%. This is a fight that has been going on since yesterday, so it's continuing once again. And Sato was actually leading the pack in terms of the leaderboard to kick things off, but having getting dropped down
Oh, okay. Clone. Oh.
to fall shortly after Clown.
Karma's
Gabix
team
and
just
Waze will
already
take home
died.
Game 7 and have the potential to get a comeback.
Smart to just go for the outright 50-50 though, and that seems to be the case over by the outpost too. Volko,
Cringe, we go. The deal.
remarks exchange back and forth between these two teams over
Volko.
social, so
I
there's
don't
a
know.
lot on the line
I don't
here
know myself who
today.
he's playing with.
And it's really about if you win the Ospawn, making sure that you translate it to a big performance in your end game when you are one of these contested teams
What is
early
that
on.
one?
The deal, Cringe, Snazy, still looking to see if they can maybe suppress back Icy and Clement. They want to be wary.
It's not a bad
Snazy
drop where they're
still
dropping
lurking.
it.
Might
I'm
be able to find a
confused.
flank opportunity here. Ice gonna apply some pressure
Cross
overhead.
space.
Deal
Why did they
back
go
a little
there?
bit. They're getting pushed
But I
pretty
didn't want
deep
to group
into
speech.
this
Something like that.
little enclave.
I know I
But
didn't.
Snazy opens up.
I don't know this.
First elimination
Jack.
onto Volko, but Deal and Cringe now left to try and scatter, but they're just so
The deal's
cornered.
running.
And Vadil will finally bail the opposite
The
direction.
deal. Oh, the deal with the TV1 with 1 HP.
And a dream currently
No way.
in Game 7, still trying to
TV1.
floor and eat, but
Wow.
he's just so healthy. Cringe has to make an immediate wraparound. Cringe needs to alleviate some pressure here for Vadil. But Vadil, he's just stuck waiting.
The deal's
This
there.
might be a revive, but Clement, he won't be able to secure it. Pressured one more time. Cringe, he's doing everything. But Vadil
The deal versus Cement. We've got an actual W fight.
could potentially settle the score
Off
here.
spawn.
And this is dragging out much longer than we would have anticipated, Takata, given how things kicked off.
No, that's
Probably
good for Vadil, though,
by the
because
next
it's exactly
season,
what he
he
needed to
doesn't
do.
know
He was
he's
solo HP. He had to wait for those
winning
sleeping
everything.
skills to come through for the 2 knocks and another big pop.
Come on, the deal.
Back-to-back triple.
W.
Big shots connecting for Vadil to clean up this
What a
match
kill,
in the
man.
early game.
This is
I'm getting too
so
excited.
far they've been
What a
playing
way to
really
kick
well.
things
So
off.
far, like
Hopefully they
2
can push
squad
that
work.
forwards
No,
now.
there's been
Not
one.
the best start in day
We
one,
missed
but
so
now,
much in
an
it.
early game like that, they have what it takes.
4
It's definitely
squads
going
in
to help
one.
out
I think it
a
was
lot of the
4
early
squads
surge. So many
and
teams
1.
kind of understanding that you need right around 800 damage
5
dealt by the time you hit third zone. Otherwise, you are going to be in a world of
It's
trouble.
like 10,
Over
4
those
past
surge
4 right
thresholds.
now.
A really nice clutch up though from Vadil.
Actually
and Cringe,
20
but
past.
gotta tap in with
Locked
action
in.
elsewhere on the map. Artist getting pressed right now by Kylie, Robin, and Timu. This is another one of our teams that's really looking to try and have some big performances.
Here we go, team. Is Timmy going to his teammate? No. Oh, here we go.
Area, but Kylie, nice job chasing
Kylie's
down
just
Rosie.
killed
It's already going to be
someone.
2 eliminations here.
Lizzo.
Kylie,
Lizzo.
and Robin. And with
When we
another
just
party
farming
lurking in
it
the
out,
distance,
I see
probably
it.
best to just take your
Oh,
wins.
oh.
You don't want
Early
to push it
game.
too far,
Mad.
especially when you're starting things off in day 2. Cammy, Hari eye drop. Now there's a trio.
Drop speed. Replay, drop speed.
So he's got faith for them to qualify. They're currently sitting in 12th place. Had a super strong start to the day yesterday. Things slowed down later on, but
slightly installment. That's what you really. That's a really good plan though for tournaments. Camping in store
here in Game 7 could be enough to
with heals. You won't die for a good while.
One of our fan favorite teams, Savage, Jab, and Reason.
It'll be a kind of been wasting heals, yeah.
Given the current standings of the
Hey,
leaderboard.
this is what I wanted to watch. Mr. Savage Reason on champ.
Making it to Leon or not. I'll have to check back in to see what sort of developments take place for them, but
You reckon Mr.
right
Savage?
back over to where Robin, Kylie, and Timu are still face up at Kappa Kappa Factory. Haven't really been able to stray too far after that initial fight they took. Getting slightly held by that other trio, but it does look like they'll end up bailing out, so that's going to give some space now for Kylie, Robin, and Timu to begin making their way out of their last position.
Yeah, he is.
1,200 damage.
Global qualifier.
In Storm Surge throughout the day yesterday just shows the amount of tags that these trios are doing, but our number one trio, Pablo, was knocked on the ground. Shino and Prodoxy were able to pick him up. We know they tend to go extra aggressive on the start for their uncontested drop. Supernova quickly rotate over to pump power or other surrounding areas, but without a single elimination yet and having one.
I was sure it's one of Clix's skins. And why have I froze? I'm muting my laptop.
He may knock down. Where do things potentially go wrong here? Our leaders of yesterday getting aggro with it once again. Trading for country, but Pablo's going to quickly get picked back up, so it looks like they have.
He wasn't close enough to provide that support, but Pump Power getting keyed by Ferdoxy's trio has been a hand-in-hand combination since yesterday, and that seems to be their
I will be
intentions
watching the
going
whole
through today
thing
now.
up until
But other
7:30.
teams that are just acquiring their surge spaces.
Then we'll all be
The big thing to
celebrating
really keep an eye out for today, Takata, is to see what teams are potentially looking to just start dropping on teams that they recognize as like setting up surge bases. In NA, I think we saw like a great example of teams kind of interrupting each other's like trading methods for surge strategy. And when a team's just getting pressed, it causes the entire map to shift.
This is big.
Vico Venoflixi pushing off the Seti's trio. Seti's currently in second place. Taking them out this early could be detrimental to their spot on the leaderboard as they continue the pursuit. It's looking like it's in Vico Venoflixi's hands. Yapko gonna alleviate a little bit of pressure there for Panzer, but Panzer is still trying to get close enough for Yapko to prevent Vico, but it's just Veno chopping them both out. Panzer isolated one more time, but Flixi just kind of waiting. Call to be made whether or not they want to give chase. Forfeit it for right now, but they've claimed Lone Wolf at this point, Takata. That they have.
I'm not going to be live streaming. I will be there for...
Surge spacing talks. I want to point back to what Levin was saying as well. It does depend a lot on where these zones do pull. It helps greatly if it pulls towards you and you kind of are looking to make one of those bases. It gives you a lot more time to make that, do that damage. But that's also going to cause the threshold to be even higher. So for the other trios that have to make that rotate, it's a world of difficulty. Robin, Timu lost Kylie. They were looking like the aggressors before this, but now the tables have turned.
Robin just really holding their breath right now alongside Timu. They're not going to be spotted, but unfortunately their position is given away. Robin, not recognizing the dangers, just trying to see if they're going to be able to disengage entirely. Ivan, I throw they might decide to give chase here. It looks like they fully understand that Surge is not going to build itself these opportunities outside, deep inside of the storm. You need to make sure that you are capitalizing on them, especially when you're a healthy trio like this. But Ivan, one more time, pressuring two separate angles here. They're just pinching in onto Timu. Timu just barely still left standing here, but it's going to be Robin who actually is eliminated first. Still 3
you want to see a watch party, I guess you can.
Good way to kick it
Just
off.
go on to either my channel or
Zone now.
you could actually watch them directly.
Kappa is going to be a bit far.
Not what I'm watching,
They're good for
because
now.
of sake of
Quick
watching
replay of
Mr.
how I was
Savage.
able to piece up Kylie, knock him down before that kind of disengagement did come through.
That's actually a double.
Karma, Werix,
Oh no!
and Akira day 2. See if he lives up to his name here.
No!
Make something happen for a qual. They are in qualifying range, to be fair. They're quite close to that 9th place cutoff on how the leaderboard currently stands. So maybe a bit more northeast zones can help them out. But if that's not the case, performance will do it.
Yeah, what we're really looking for, though, is to see whether or not this major is going to confirm our first French and native players to the Global Championship. I mean, it's in Lyon after all, Takata, so I know that France is definitely going to be getting loud for some of their players that are competing
I want to know
today.
who quals.
Pixie Bunny and Marius, though,
You're asking why I'm watching it.
they won
Okay.
out Major 2. Played a
Something
champion
was saying
wielders,
that-
still looking to just try and defend that
I
title.
still got that
But they have a lot of work cut out for them, Takata.
Oh my gosh.
And he did say he's not retiring until he
That's insane.
gets
That is a disturbing amount of healing resources. Plenty of shield, plenty of white meds. Flixie Benovico,
everyone's
they're
hoping
just
to
gonna
win.
keep playing as aggressively as
Said
they did
most
yesterday,
of
but
them
a
is
big
white.
cutoff. I was looking at Pigstorm and Demas
show
and
them
didn't
all.
see Benovico and Flixie playing spoiler. The Polish trio
Actually, Vino's
are
white.
also just getting further and further backed into a corner here. But they can
Is
still
it a
try to
different
fight their
version
way
of
out of this. You never know. Third party
Boxing?
intervention can also start to play a part here.
Boxing is
Flixie
Savage and
Benovico
Flix
just trying to make sure they
Boxing
keep their back foot covered while also continuing to apply steady pressure here.
Vino's dead.
Take this apart, but
No,
Veno
Vino is not
the
dead.
challenge against Pix that he ends up losing. Fortunately for Veno, he's still got Vico and Flixie to rely on.
Okay, there we go.
and the
Vino's
supportive
back,
measures
Vino's
are
back.
there. We've got to be quick because Werix, Akira, Kurama, they definitely overheard all that commotion.
Just with a sliver of HP, Veno was able to get picked back
I've
up.
got like endgame.
Seems
Wait,
like
what's the time
Demon Star
on
and
it?
Pix want to play a bit more aggressive. They're the perfect
It's
trio
like
to do
12
that,
minutes
but
of this
you have to go
round.
against Vico Veno Flixie. That is quite literally the top competition to go against. Seti
He's about
seems to
12
still be
minutes.
down. Yapko
And
Panzer
only 8 gone.
kind of waiting it out right on top of the reboot van.
They know that Ghost and Hyper likely looking to try and do the exact same thing. Want to make a reboot play, bring their trio back up and running. But Yapko and Panzer, they definitely are just trying to be cautious because they
catching
know
up.
even if they try and tackle
Queez-
Hyper and Ghost
Queez-
directly
Queezy
for the 2v2,
is top
it's just so
five, I think it's
likely where they're currently sitting that another trio will just roll on over
I'm
and then
praying for
clean up
a no.
both of them. So they just got to take their time with
To
this.
get out of that
They really do.
today.
Look at where Akira
And I
and
said it
Karma
should
got
be
a nice
hard.
wasn't sure if they're
Actually,
on
not EU
facing
overall.
up here for next zone. Yeah, they're gonna use the Supernova
And I
Academy rotate
literally
potentially,
just
but
America. EU is all
you can kind of use
over.
this to drop on top of brutal boxcars in the early
Oceania
games if you're
and
playing
Asia is
play-ins.
actually quite big.
Going
Asia
for
probably really big.
some quick aggro matches, but
No, because
For now,
someone literally got 8
picked up
out
a
of
bit of
12
extra
wins.
loot,
I don't think it's that good.
and they're gonna be chilling for a bit.
They might also just be looking to camp it in general to try and prevent a team that's been playing from inside of the storm from a quick rotate. A lot of sneak methods, a lot of new strategies, but one thing that stays the same is surge basing. Still a big favorite here in EU. Pablo, though, just trying to be careful, doesn't want to
What happened to Prodoxy?
get fully knocked in. Definitely, it's seemingly an uphill battle here in Game 7 for Gino Pablo. Not sure when they ended up losing Prodoxy along the way, but too many teams in the surrounding area for them to be able to look for a direct reboot just yet, and it's gonna burn so much time away from Pablo and Chino.
There's not a lot of times you kind of hope for a far zone pull, but when you're looking for a reboot and the zone pulls back onto you, it means your opponents aren't going to leave anytime soon, so making it even more difficult to get that
got
Troll
another
in the tunnel, so
replay.
Foxy Floodgate for Mappy. We saw them kind of kicking things off there at the end of Game 6 yesterday, so Game 7, it's really just about finding that spark that's going to ignite your team, really get that fire underneath them, and Frenek, Dinas, get us. We are having the desk wishes be answered here, Takada, because this zone is continuing to pull in that northward direction. And that could pose a serious problem here for Dinas, Frenek, and Giddas, notorious for playing very strongly through those south zones, but North one could be a much different story.
See how it does play out. They're currently in qualifying spot for global, so I don't think they're going to do anything too risky to kick things off today, but it looks like Fredoxy will be rebooted back into the match now. They have to go through a bit of a difficult rotate if Fredoxy doesn't go down. Upple cracked. Does get out, though, it seems, with literally might be at 1 HP, but he's still on his feet, which is what matters.
That south side of zone, though, is going to start to get real congested real fast, and that's why
we need big.
Here
we go. This is a big
they're
fight.
just trying to see if they can beat some of these other teams towards the positional
You know what, Club?
advantages.
We need like a Reno and Malibu for next to Savage.
Already made their way into that south side edge of zone, and now teams
Mr.
having
Savage with a
a little bit of breathing
streaming
room. Put down into Ash Sprite, make sure
Malibu
you're
for
fully charged
Reno.
up.
They're all going to be sweating,
So
but they're just
many
hard to
small
sweat.
forms of healing, kind of just being littered everywhere, Takata. It's just a lot of small shield potions that players are relying on, but Up will definitely need some HP.
I feel like
Team that SNS is in desperate need is Queasy, Mustache. We saw them dominate a lot of matches yesterday.
It's got to be the most common tongue twister, right? The Quizzy
Yeah,
thing.
I always say Quizzy. I keep saying Quizzy, and I don't know why. I guess Swizzy. I'm doing it again. You know, because I'll leave that trio for now. Akira, quick pickup onto Fincheck.
It's okay. We know it's just because they work like they're one unit. Quizzy has the mastermind, but the way that Swizzy and Mustache seem like extensions, just their fragging capability is insane. And Karama, Akira, Weirdex, they've got to keep trying to find some of these refreshes, and they're not the only team that's feeling a little bit pressured right now. Pablo, Chino, Fredoxy having to play for that super late reboot because of where all the traction was at. Just too many teams surrounding them for them to play for an earlier reboot on Supernova, and now they're kind of just being held by Pink, Nebs, Kiddo. We need to see a big performance as well from Pink, Nebs, and Kiddo, given that